if you've heard of dropshipping or you've thought of selling e-commerce, physical products, that's where you start, is the product. And I would actually challenge you to not start with the product you want to sell. So it's very easy to go, what am I going to sell? I want to start, what am I going to sell? Instead, think about who you want to serve, because that'll lead you to the promised land.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Coffee Break podcast. A lot has changed in the last 12 months in e-commerce. The market is crowded, ad costs keep climbing, and the old copy and paste business models are not working any longer. So today we're tackling a big question. How do you start a real profitable online business in 2026 without wasting money or burning yourself out? To break this down, I'm joined by Ben Knegendorf. He is the co-founder of Dropship Breakthrough. Ben has built several 7- and 8-figure high-ticket stores, and he says most sellers fail long before they even list their first product. Today, we were going to find out why that is. Ben, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, glad to be here. I like that intro.
Ben, let's jump right into it. What's the biggest problem people run into when they try to start an e-commerce business today?
Yeah, so over here, we like to start without taking on a whole lot of risk, right? So I think one of the biggest problems people do is they want to start their own brand, which is admirable. I too have started my own brands, but it can be very costly, right? It can be costly in a lot of ways. It can be costly financially, of course, because you might have to do research, order samples, place a big order and hope people buy it from you, right? It can be costly in your research, as you don't really know your customer, and unless you've spent a lot of time learning about them, you're probably going to get that wrong out of the gates. And then it can be costly to drive traffic to a product that no one knows exists, right? And so we like to flip that on its head. And that is why we start with the dropshipping method. And now, not the normal dropshipping method you think of, Klaus. Like most people would think of some widget from AliExpress that they sell, dancing on TikTok or with Facebook ads or whatever. We like to sell high-ticket products around here, and I'm happy to go in depth on why that makes a little more sense. But we like to start out selling products that already exist, that already have demand, so we don't have to create it. We can just capture the demand that already exists, learn about that customer before we would ever launch our own products.
Mm-hmm. You just mentioned AliExpress, and I think the good old times, that's probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, it was easy to import stuff from China and do dropshipping. And I think a lot of people still have that in mind or got burned during that time and now are hesitant. But dropshipping is a business concept that is around for a very, very long time and working very well. Why do some people win with dropshipping while others lose?
Well, I think the core of that comes down to actually who does the work more so than the model. So first off, I agree with you. I think the lower ticket stuff was a flash in the pan. It came for a little while. People would find a hot product and they would turn and burn their store, screw over their customers. The product wouldn't show up for 45 to 60 days in a heavily taped box and severely disappoint them. That's not a model that's sustainable, right? So turn that on its head and let's talk about high-ticket dropshipping. I want to give you concrete references. So the easiest one to give you is Wayfair. If you're in the U.S., you know what Wayfair is. Wayfair started as 100 different high-ticket dropshipping businesses, right? They'd have a bar stool business, they'd have a bed business, and many, many others, right? And they combined them all into Wayfair, and they still dropship today. Now dropshipping has a stigma. The word itself has a stigma, I think, Klaus, but it's simply a method of fulfillment. If you come to my store and I sell you a sauna from Sunlighten, I place that order with Sunlighten. Sunlighten ships to you with my label on the box. You're none the wiser that product was indeed drop shipped to you. But somehow that word's gotten quite a stigma based on Shopify drop shipping being a business model when in fact it's just a method of fulfillment.
Mm-hmm. And I think back in the time, there were a lot of so-called online gurus who sort of burnt the reputation with courses and coaching and all of these things and just gave it a bad name with dropshipping. Again, this is not the case. Now, I did dropshipping myself for about 7 years, my own store, and saw great results there. And when it comes to high ticket, I think we should, for our listeners, define where high ticket starts and what this can actually be, just to diversify this a little bit.
Yeah, I think, that number has changed since we've been teaching this, and that has a lot more to do with the inflation that has run rampant for all of us, right? Everything costs a lot more. So I think that number was a little lower before. We used to say, above 800 or above 1,000. I might even go a little higher than that and say above 1,500. If your average order, so not all of them, but your average order is in that $2,000 to $3,000 range, you're going to be in really good shape. And here's why, Klaus. Let's say you wanted to do $30,000 in revenue next month. If you were selling a little $30 widget, you'd need to sell 1,000 of those. Whereas if I'm selling a $3,000 sauna, I need to sell 10. And so you're going to need less employees to fulfill 10 orders than you would 1,000. You're going to have less damages and returns. You're going to have less customer service headaches. You're going to have certainly less chargebacks than you would when you're not only selling less orders, but selling a much higher quality product along the way. So that all sounds great. And the biggest benefit that I would put in there is you can make mistakes. So with a $30 product, let's say you have 30% margins, you have $9 to go acquire a customer. And when you run out of those $9, you're done. That's the end of your business. Where with a $3,000 product, if I have those same 30% margins, I have $1,000 to go acquire a customer who's already looking for this product. I can simply step in front of them. And so I have a lot more room to make a mistake and still, worst case scenario, break even and hopefully not lose money by selling less products, right? You have time to learn marketing, because I would imagine most people listening either just started or they haven't started, right? And so you don't know anything. You have a lot to learn. That's going to come through action, not watching YouTube videos or listening to podcasts. God bless this podcast. We have 2 of our own, but that's going to come from you actually starting a business. And so High Ticket allows you to kind of stumble your way into learning what some of that marketing looks like.
Starting a business is not easy, and you have to learn a lot, specifically if you're coming from, from the corporate world, or you're a side hustler, you want to make some extra money and then build your brand. It takes some time, takes a lot of work coming from there. So you said before you're selling your first product, there's a lot of work that you need to put in. And I think that's something that people totally underestimate, how much time and effort it takes to get ready, to get started. What's your take on that?
So this is another place where we kind of flip around the order here. If you've heard of dropshipping or you've thought of selling e-commerce, physical products, that's where you start, is the product. And I would actually challenge you to not start with the product you want to sell. So it's very easy to go, what am I going to sell? I want to start, what am I going to sell? Instead, think about who you want to serve, because that'll lead you to the promised land. So if you can really nail down who is the person that I want to serve, I'll give you some examples. So one of my favorite angles is people who are passionate about something, right? So in the past, I've served golfers. You could imagine someone who's passionate about woodworking is going to buy a lot of tools. You could do business owners, right? So someone who owns a salon is going to be very passionate about what they're doing, and they need a lot of different products as well. I own a domain that I've sat on for years called Shop Commercial Restrooms, right? That could be a buyer for someone who's helped putting up new buildings, right? There's a lot of products that fall in there, but I'm serving that person. And another concrete example was I was part of a company who sold to people who own tiny houses, right? So they're very passionate about their lifestyle. They have a tiny house. There are loads of products that exist inside of a tiny house that you can sell. But if you start with the products, you're going to end up where that store started. So that store started selling composting toilets and composting toilets only. And while you might make some money selling a product, once we shifted, I got on a call with this guy, I gave him some advice. He ended up literally giving me half his business to go build this together. We shifted from selling composting toilets to selling to tiny home people and all the products that they buy. That business blew up, right? And so I would challenge you, if you're listening to this, really think about the person you want to serve. Who is the who you want to serve? And again, that could be a business owner, someone passionate about their products, a buyer. There's lots of different angles you could take here. But it's important to understand who you're serving long before you choose the products they buy. Because if you know who it is and what they're passionate about and the problems they have, the products will expose themselves as the solutions to that person's problems.
Mm-hmm. And it makes it easier to find more products that you can sell to an existing customer. And I think that's also very important. Instead of selling once and then chasing the next new customer, which was sort of the old business concept of dropshipping, you rather build up a base of customers that you can sell more over time, and then you have a better lifetime value of this customer. Now, one question that always comes up is like, where do I find my suppliers? How does that work?
I would challenge you that it's not a supplier thing, it's a brand thing, right? So what we do around here is sell brands local to you. I'm in the US. There are loads of brands who are in the US that can ship to you locally, and they're all brands you've definitely heard of. If I'm thinking about starting a business marketing to the barbecue enthusiast, right? I might sell pellet grills, I might sell gas grills, I might sell pergolas, I might sell everything for their backyard fortress, if you will. I'm going to go right to those brands, right? So Memphis makes a wonderful pellet grill. I'm going to call Memphis directly and say, hey, I'd like to be a retailer for your products. Louisiana Grills, Kamado Grills, Blackstone, like the brands that you're thinking of, those are your suppliers. So you are just like Home Depot or Lowe's or Target, Walmart, whatever. You're a retailer. You might be a specialty retailer. You're on the internet and you're very niche down, but you're still a retailer. You're selling brands people have already heard of. They're already searching for these things, which again makes your ability to market to those people very simple because they're already looking for your products.
That makes perfect sense. Now, before I want to dive in on how to do things, obviously you help people getting started quicker. You mentioned that you can listen to podcasts, you can, I don't know, go on the interwebs and find all this information out there and spend weeks, days, months with it, which a lot of people actually do. They sort of never come to the point where really they start with their business. Now, you help to speeding this whole process up. How do you help your clients?
Look, there's a few ways I like to say. Some people like to ingest a little information first. I know I was that way. We run Dropship podcasts, and you can find that on any of your players under Dropship Podcast or dropshippodcast.com. That's a great place. We've done 400 plus episodes. We literally give away the entire business model. If you want to learn how it works, great, go listen to that. But again, you're going to want to get started, and that's where our course Dropship Breakthrough comes in, where you're going to get an over-the-shoulder look of us actually building one of these businesses. So we have 300 plus videos inside of our course where we walk you through every step on how to start your business, but not only that, how to grow your business. So John and I have both been doing this for 11 plus years at this point. Over that time, we've learned a whole lot about how to market, how to do email marketing, how to do SEO, and how to do lots of things in your business that don't come out of the gates naturally when you just want to start a business. So we kind of have two parts to our course of like, here's how to start, here's how to launch, here's how to get a business up in the next 30 days. And then from there, it's okay, now we get to actually play the game. We get to figure out how to grow this business.
What are the first 5 steps that you teach people?
So I usually talk through a framework of like how you could get started in the next 30 days, right? And I believe you can do so for less than $500. I genuinely believe that. So if I had to tell you what that looked like, I would walk you through probably a few more than 5, but if you bear with me, it's pretty simple. Number 1, figure out who you're going to serve, and you're going to need to go buy a domain, right? So that's going to cost you $12. I like Namecheap. Use GoDaddy. Use Shopify if you want to. It doesn't matter. Shopify is your next step. That is your e-commerce platform. I can't imagine anyone recommends anything other than Shopify at this point. They have made this very, very simple for you to get started. Shopify is roughly $39 a month for their lowest plan. I think you can get started for $1. And once you connect that domain, you're going to end up paying that $39. From there, we would recommend you get a theme. So a theme on your Shopify store is basically a skin, if you will. It determines the different looks and functionalities you can have on your Shopify store. Now, there are plenty of free themes. I started my very first business on a free theme. You absolutely can use one. We're big fans of the Superstore theme from Out of the Sandbox. They're the biggest developer of themes in the country, and we're big fans of them. We offer that as part of our course for a little upsell. We give you a nice little deal on the Superstore theme if you come inside of our course. Again, you don't need one, but if you do, it's going to cost you $180 to $500. Like, you can buy a very complex theme if you want to. You don't need this. The next thing you're going to need is Google Workspace. And so you have this domain, so we'll call it klausesstore.com. You're going to want Klaus at klausesstore.com, right? You're not going to want to have in your footer or your contact us page, Klaus at gmail.com, right? That's very unprofessional. So we use Google Workspace to get an email for your domain. That's $12 a month. Very inexpensive for you to have your email at your domain. You get all of the Google Drive functions and the calendar. Believe me, it's a very powerful tool. That's how you'll set up your Google Analytics and Search Console. All the good stuff that comes to running a business is built in there. So $12 a month is a no-brainer there. The next step is, how can we look even more professional? It's having a dedicated phone line for our business, right? So it's less important nowadays. I would say when I was younger, an 800 number or an 888 or, it turned into 855, 844, all these toll-free numbers look certainly more professional. Nowadays, I don't know if you even need that, but you still want a dedicated line. Now, we use Grasshopper or OpenPhone. Any of those will work. There's also lots of other opportunities out there for you to get your own phone number. It's going to be about $40 a month. At that point, you're going to want to build a website. And by build, I mean get a little bit of branding. Have someone make a logo for you on Fiverr. Have someone make a homepage image for you on Fiverr. And then of those brands that you found, go upload a couple products, maybe 4 or 5. And at that point, you've spent less than a few $100s, and you're going to go call these suppliers. And so literally pick up the phone, call them and say, hey, this is Klaus at klausesstore.com. I'm interested in becoming a retailer for your brand. What does that look like? And now some of them are going to say no. Some of them are going to give you the runaround and give you some maybes, and you'll have to call back and talk to them some more. And some are going to say yes. And so you take those yeses, you get their pricing sheet where they'll tell you, here's where you should list your price at. Here's the price you pay for it. Put it up on your website. And then the big step, and honestly, where you're going to spend your money is on Google Ads. And the reason we run Google Ads and not social media ads is because no one's going to social media to search a $3,000 pellet grill. No one's going to TikTok to look for this. No one's going to Facebook to search for this. No one's going to Amazon to look for a $3,000 item either, right? They go to Google. And so when you go to Google and you search Memphis T700, you're going to get little shopping ads across the top. That's where we want to be. We want to be right there next to the other people who are selling these products. And when someone clicks our ad, that's actually when we pay. They come to our website, and hopefully at that point, our product page sells them. So Google Ads is going to cost you, we recommend about $30 a day to get started. You can certainly start for less. They give you a helpful little coupon when you sign up of spend $150, we'll give you $150, or spend $500, we'll give you $500, spend $1,500, we'll give you $1,500. By the time you're done building your store, you'll probably have 3 different offers from Google of like, please come spend some money with us. And so I'd encourage you to use one of those coupons and get started on Google. And so that's the steps, right? You get all the pieces you need, you build a store, then call suppliers, upload their products, run some Google ads. Hopefully you run it correctly. You're not going to run ads on the word pellet grill. You're going to run it on Memphis T700. Again, you want to step in front of people who are actually looking for the products you sell, and inevitably that's going to turn into sales. If you made any sort of decent website, any sort of decent product page, you're already in front of the right people. Now you just need to close them.
Mm-hmm. Ben, that was the fastest masterclass I have ever heard when it comes to dropshipping. That was just less than 6 minutes. I had to look at my clock there. So for our listeners, you have to listen to this more than once, or even better, look into the transcript. This is really a step-to-step plan, and there's nothing I can add to this because this is exactly how you do it. Now, obviously, imagine going to Ben's podcast or being part of the course and of the membership, what else you get on information out of there. Now, I want to find out who's the right person for dropshipping. There might be some persons out there, some personality type for them it wouldn't work. Do you have any experience with that?
I struggle with this one because in my heart of hearts, I'm an entrepreneur to the core. I haven't worked in 10 years. I cannot imagine going to take orders from somebody or having to be somewhere at 8 o'clock sharp or else. And so I want to believe everyone has this in them. Now, there are some hurdles you're going to have to cross. Entrepreneurship is the greatest self-development program you will ever be part of. It is going to push you to your ceiling over and over and over again. And you're going to have to battle those demons. We all have them. They're all in our head. Some say you're not worthy. You don't deserve this. What if I fail? Honestly, what if I succeed is a bigger one than what if I fail. If you succeed, then your story's wrong and all your family's wrong. And it can mess with relationships as you succeed, and you don't want that. So I think it's for everybody. We have students in our course who are absolutely killing it, and they're 20 years old. They dropped out of college and they're doing this. We have people in their 50s and 60s in our course who are doing well, and everywhere in between. And so who am I to say that you shouldn't do this? That's generally how I feel. Is there going to be some challenges if you're not internet inclined, if you will? Of course, there's going to be some challenges there. It's going to take some time to learn that. If you're a whiz on the internet, it's probably going to be a little easier to take some of these steps. On the other hand, if you aren't so good at internet, you're likely a little older, and you probably have a better feel for relationships and how to work with these brands and how to work with suppliers and have conversations with your customers, where some people in their younger years haven't built that skill yet. And so we've served everybody. We've had people come into our course I thought were a shoo-in and they were going to be successful, and they quit. And I've seen other people come in and I was like, I don't know if this is going to work out, and they've surprised me to the upside. And so I think this could work for anybody, Klaus, genuinely.
I like that you pointed out it's a bit of a painful journey, but it might be totally worth it. And becoming an entrepreneur is a journey. There's a lot of learning in there. And as you said, it helps you as a person. I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years, and there's a lot of struggle in there, but it's totally worth it. And I just was speaking, as you mentioned, that to a dropshipping entrepreneur yesterday here in Bangkok, 23-year-old kid still studying, building up a really, really nice store. So everyone can do it. Now, you mentioned before that your program takes you there in 30 days, but how many hours per week or per day does it take to get there?
So again, that's going to vary based on your ability to ingest information and put that to action. I would tell you, do what you can with the time you have. And some people will say, I have no time. That's not true, right? So pull out your phone. I use an iPhone, right? Swipe over to the side, pull up your screen time and hit that for me. And then tell me all of those 6, 7, 8 hours you put on your phone a day that you don't have time. There's time in there, right? But you're going to have to sacrifice something. For me, when I first started, Klaus, I loved to play some Call of Duty. I would work from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. I'd come home and I'd play Call of Duty till 5 a.m. And I had to sacrifice Call of Duty. Nowadays, it's Netflix or doom scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube Shorts. I'm as addicted as everyone else listening to this, but you're going to have to find some time in there where you say, I'm gonna sacrifice some of this quote unquote, I'm not even going to call it pleasure. It just feels like pleasure, right? It's the dopamine you get from that. And I challenge you to shift that to the dopamine you would get from building something. It is just as good a feeling, but it's not instant, right? You're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to build this. And so if that's an hour a day, great. If that's 2 hours a day, fantastic. If you can put an hour a day into something for 30 days, you're going to be in a drastically different place 30 days later than if you spent that hour doom scrolling.
Mm-hmm. Can you share some success stories, and you don't need to name the brands or case studies from businesses or from industries, verticals that you have seen good results with?
So we've done a lot of this on our podcast. I would tell the listener, go to Dropship Podcast. You'll find some of our students who have done amazing things. We've had everything from, myself, I was driving a forklift at a Walmart distribution center to being where I am currently. I'm part of multiple 7-figure businesses. I've exited multiple 7-figure businesses, including an 8-figure business. But we have a lot of students doing that too, who are all sorts of different backgrounds. A few that come to mind are John, who was a brewmaster at a brewery, and then started this. He's now running a 7-figure business that is bordering on 8-figure at this point. I mentioned the young kid. His name's Matt. He was on the podcast as well. He's 22 now. He dropped out of college, started this, and now he runs a quite a big business as well, easily multi 7 figures. But there's probably a couple dozen stories in the 400 episodes that we've done on Dropship Podcast, and they vary widely, right? From male to female, from young to old. And so I would encourage people to go check out some of those episodes if they want to hear it. And if you're not much of a listener, just go to dropshipbreakthrough.com and you will see testimonial after testimonial after testimonial. We've done multiple live events where people have recorded great testimonials. They've also written them. And so this stuff works, Klaus. If you work it, if you do the work, this stuff works. That's usually the challenge for most people is doing the work.
I couldn't agree more, yeah. Where can people go and find out more? And how's the typical onboarding process going on?
So we have a few different ways that you can learn more, right? So obviously the Dropship Podcast is your free way to do so. One other free option would be dropshipbreakthrough.com/go. That's a free training where John, my business partner, will actually walk you through what does it look like to actually build one of these businesses. All the steps I laid out today, he's going to lay out in a 2-hour training. And so you can go learn through that. We also have a bunch of like little starter courses that can help you get started. So often where we see people get hung up is like, okay, you said the who am I going to serve? And so we built something for that. It's called our Passion to Profit Blueprint. You can find that at dropshipbreakthrough.com/passion. That'll walk you through the whole process of figuring out who you're going to serve and what products you're going to sell. And at the end of that, you can send in, here's what I'm thinking I'm going to do, and we'll give you our honest feedback. After 11, 12 years, we can pretty much tell, hey, this one's going to work or this one's not. And certainly there's some industries we would recommend staying out of at this point. They're just too crowded. And so if you come with one of those ideas, we're going to redirect you to something else. So those are the usual typical places where we tell people to get started.
Okay, I will put all the links in the show notes as always, and you're just one click away. But I think we could talk for hours about entrepreneurship and dropshipping. It's such a wide topic. But before the coffee break comes to an end, is there one final thought that you want to leave our listeners with?
I get asked this a lot on podcasts, and it's the same answer every time. Just start. If I look back at my journey, I listened to podcast after podcast after podcast while driving around dog food and stacking pallets at a Walmart distribution center and telling everybody I'm going to do this, but I never actually did anything. I just said I was going to do it, and I got enamored with the idea of doing it. And it took 7 months, I want to believe, 6-7 months before I finally said, okay, I have to do this. I have to sit down and actually take action here. I was $40,000 in debt, Klaus. I got a credit card that showed up with a $1,000 credit limit. That's all you get when you're $40,000 in debt. And the course was $1,000. And I spent my last $1,000 on a course. And I'm not recommending that to anyone listening unless that's what you want to do. But I did it. And I took a chance on me, and I actually started. And I still ran into issues along the way. I was too scared to call suppliers. Somebody in the forum said pellet grills wouldn't work, and I started crying. I was like, oh no, my niche won't work. My idea won't work. But I pushed through all of that, and I ended up building and selling my first business in 1 year while still working full-time at a Walmart distribution center. And so just start. You will never regret starting. You will regret 5 years from now saying what if, right? What if I would have done this? What if I would have done? I'm sure you have plenty of what ifs going through your head right now of already things that have passed you by. Don't let this one pass you by. If this is something you really want to do, just start.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Just do it, as Nike says. Ben, thanks so much for your time today. I hope a lot of listeners will reach out to you directly or check your podcast or the other channels. And I'm sure if you get started, this is for our listeners, don't procrastinate. Just get started. And if you put the work in, you will see some results. Thanks so much for your time today, Ben.
Hell yeah, this was fun.